Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Moe, and we're here today with some Gears of War 3 footage to talk about the rumored Gears of War 1 HD remake coming to the Xbox One. Everything we're going to talk about today, completely rumored. None of it has been confirmed by Microsoft. All we know is that Black Tusk is indeed working on the next Gears of War, and that if we want to know anything about the Gears of War franchise, we need to tune in to Microsoft's press conference at E3 this year. That's pretty much the only news we've gotten on when any of this will be confirmed. And that's not that far away, so I can't expect Microsoft to really say anything solid about Black Tusk project or this HD remake until then. But there's a bit of information we know about it, and I think there's a lot that I can talk about personally regarding what I would like to see for the game if it actually did happen. So, in terms of what we know, very little, and a lot of it is really specific details, which kind of lends itself to the fact that this is most likely a real project. Also the fact that Microsoft and Black Tusk have not denied anything about it. That's usually a really good sign for, yeah, it's working, we just don't want to tell you about it yet. So let's talk a little bit about what we know. Really the core elements here are campaign, right? Redone visuals, new lighting, improved textures. Hopefully they're going to use a new version or a more recent version of the Unreal Engine. You have to remember that the original Gears of War is an extremely old game at this point, and it's really damn ugly. No offense to that game, but it never had a lot of color to start with. Gears 3 really turned up the color palette, right? I want to see that same sort of color palette injected into Gears 1. Don't just give me a remake. I'm not looking to see you preserve a classic. I want to see this game have new life breathed into it. Give old fans and new fans alike a reason to check it out if it actually releases, alright? That's a big thing for me. 60 FPS rumored in the multiplayer, not just in the single player. This would be a huge step forward for the franchise that has never had anything higher than 30. The games have always run wicked smooth, but something that can be, while is slow and methodical, that can also be as brutal and as fast as Gears of War, deserves 60 FPS in its multiplayer. So that would be a really exciting prospect. And a lot of games are understanding the importance of that. Call of Duty's done it for years. It's one of the best pieces of that game's multiplayer. And now Halo 5 Guardians is also going to be having 60 FPS in their multiplayer. So following that trend would get a really big golf clap from all of us multiplayer fans, for sure. Now here's the most interesting thing, right? Apart from the fact, okay, they're going to redo the visuals and textures in 60 FPS, it's the actual rumored developer, alright? It's not like some in-house Microsoft studio. A lot of the rumors, Polygon actually has sources saying that it's Splash Damage. Like, yeah, Splash Damage. You know, the same UK-based independent studio that has released Brink, Anime Territory, Quake Wars, and most recently Dirty Bomb. Yeah, those guys. They have a really good pedigree for multiplayer team-based experiences. So if anyone is going to do a remake for the game, I think I'd be perfectly happy with them. I mean, the single player is there, right? You just have to make sure it looks good and you bring back all the important elements. The multiplayer, though, this is where things can kind of, you know, go one way or the other. I mean, and this is really what I want to talk about, right? Yeah, I'd be more than happy to replay the original campaign. I love Gears of War. I'm a huge fan of the franchise. I spent so much time with it. It was one of my all-time favorite Xbox 360 games. I spent more time with it than just about any other franchise, and I have a lot of memories tied to the characters of this, as many people do. They're very likable characters, as much as big meatheads they actually are, right? So I'm very, very excited about the single player, as many people are. But the multiplayer is where there's a lot of questions to be answered here. Alright, you know, there's a lot of things they can do with this. I mean, number one, to just remake the original Gears of War multiplayer would be stupid. That multiplayer mode, for many of you who don't know, was actually just a last-minute addition to the game. They never thought it was going to do as well as it did, and the franchise, frankly, kind of suffered from that. That's, you know, that lack of planning over the course of the next two games. Gears 2 was horrible with netcode. I played it for well over 500 hours, God knows how, because that was a nightmare. I've never played a more inconsistent multiplayer shooter. It was absolutely horrible, but like many of us diehard fans, we just hung in there because we loved the gameplay. The reward was somehow higher than the punishment. Gears 3 recovered a lot, alright? The netcode was a lot better in Gears 3. It still is to this day. It still has a ton of inconsistencies that make it a really frustrating experience at times. But they headed in a better direction with, you know, dedicated servers on some of the game modes. So that's one of the biggest things that I would like to see is, you know, don't just remake number one. sort of do a best of, you know, bring the best pieces of the multiplayers together. Remember the franchise's roots, though. Judgment got way away from what made Gears of War, and it turned into this just run and gun fest. The original Gears of War and Gears of War 2 and even 3 were just so well known for this combination of slow, methodical decision making amongst your teammates, and then at times brutal rush tactics. You know, it was this perfect combination. You could go from sitting behind cover for 15 minutes, having a Lancer fight, to having a ridiculous rolling shotgun fight with 3 other guys. That's what made the franchise so damn good. That awesome cover-based shooting mechanic mixed with that just crazy close quarters combat. You need to preserve that. You need to bring that back. That's really important to the Gears multiplayer experience. But obviously there's a lot of things that have changed over time. There's a lot of improvements that have been made to the multiplayer, and it would be silly just to wipe those all away for the sake of preserving a classic, as I said before. So that's really the core of what I want to see from this multiplayer experience. Now, in terms of what maps they could do, what guns they could include, I mean, that's kind of free game to me, right? Don't just say let's remake the Gears of War multiplayer. Let's pick pieces from here and there. What was everybody's favorite Hammer Burst? What version of the Lancer did people enjoy the most? What version of the Lancer did they like the most? Should we put in the Sawed-Off? Should we put in the Sniper Rifle? What about the Bolt-Ock? You know, pick and choose the best of the best and see how it all pans out, and try and make this like the best of the best Gears multiplayer. I would love to see that. I'd love to see a wide range of maps from different games. I think that could make the multiplayer something truly worth playing while we wait for the next Gears of War, which we probably won't see till next year. You know, I doubt that the game's going to be ready for the end of this year. And why would they announce a remaster and then launch, you know, the next release so soon after? I think Microsoft and even Black Tusk, you know, just the fact that they're working on the next Gears of War, they have a really good opportunity to do this remake right. This is the chance to bring back a lot of old fans, let them know that Gears of War is still a thing and it's coming back in a big way, and here's a special treat. You know, to me, this is really the chance to give the fans something special. I'll more than happily purchase this if I know that I'm going to be getting something that I can actually play for the next year or more. You know, that would be really cool. And at the same time, there's a lot of people, a lot of young kids who have just started playing games. Maybe they picked up, you know, their first console was the late life cycle of the Xbox 360. Gears of War 3 was sort of already, you know, done and over with, and, you know, they didn't really get to experience Gears of War. This is that chance to introduce a whole new fan base to this franchise, and that's very, very exciting. At the end of the day, I'm stoked for this. We know like nothing about it, and I'm really excited for it. I know there's bits and pieces of information regarding what sorts of modes we might see for the multiplayer, but you know, whatever. To me, that's just all semantics. I just want to see what's actually going to happen with this project. What's it going to look like? What engine it's going to run on? How are you going to deliver this to the fans? Those are the questions that I want to see answered, and hopefully come June E3 we'll hear all about that and more. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Would you be excited for a Gears of War 1 HD remake? Are you excited at the possibility of it? And when did you start playing Gears of War? Or maybe you haven't yet, and this is something that you're really looking forward to. Let me know everything you have to say about this topic down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.